Hello, today we are going to be doing a shared story, a close read of the story Charles by Shirley Jackson. Now, one of the things that I like to do when I'm doing a shared reading is I like to answer these questions every time. This is called a mnemonic device, saw best, somebody who acted, what was a verb or action that they took, as if they wanted. I often will look for repetitive words or feeling words, but there's always someone or something that gets in the way. So we literally look for the word but, or we look for opposite feeling words that we might have looked for up here. But someone or something wanted something else. So who or what got in the way? So, how did the main character try to solve the problem? What steps did they take? Then, what happened in the end? Were they able to solve their problem? Why or why not? Now, sometimes when we're also looking for the who, we're also looking for what I call the POV, or the point of view, because that can give us some clues as to who the main character is. Okay, now if we look at this left side, it says, what can we already tell from the title of the picture? Now, I'm going to probably get into this a little bit more as we start reading. But one of the things that we want to start doing is we don't just want to read a story. What we really want to do is we want to read it quickly and yet with understanding. And so there is this kind of technique where we start looking at the number of paragraphs or pages. So if I look at this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6 pages. And if I'm literally just skimming and scanning, let's see, there's about 1, 2, 3, 5 to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I mean, there's a bunch of paragraphs, but I'm estimating like you would do in math. 1, 2, 3. So let's say there are 3 to 5 paragraphs. Now you'll notice that this is 1 page here, okay? So that doesn't count. There's no paragraphs in here. So we can do 6 minus 1, which is 6 pages. And if we have about 5 paragraphs per page, we do 5 times 6. That will give us 30 paragraphs, and we want to read about a paragraph a minute. So reading the story should probably take about 30 minutes. But we're not just reading the story, we're also answering some questions. And I have some questions that I like to ask myself every time I read. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 questions right there. And then as I skim and scan the text, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 questions. So if I do 7 plus 11, that gives me 18. So let's round it off. That should take me about 20 minutes to answer the questions. So if I look at this whole thing, this would probably take me 50 to 60 minutes to read total. Okay, so I like to kind of estimate that, because I want to see, obviously I can take as much time as I want, but I want to see if over time I can kind of use this formula and get down to this, which will be really important when you're taking standardized tests, either for junior high, high school, or college. Okay, so now that I know this, it says, what can we already tell from the title and the picture? Well, it says Charles, so I'm guessing that my who, and I will clarify this along the way, is probably Charles. Charles. Okay. Um, he doesn't look very happy, so I might be looking for some feeling words. I might say like unhappy, question mark. But I'm not sure what else. Oh, and then also my Charles seems to be a boy. I don't know how old he is. He's not that old. I don't know. Maybe he's like 7 or 8. So those are some things that we can do before we read to already start to build up our background knowledge. So now what we're going to do is we are going to actually do our shared reading. I'm going to probably move my picture over here somewhere so that I can annotate while I read, because that's what we do with close reading. We annotate. And as we start to work with technology, we can start to annotate electrically. Now, this is just a really simple, I have a PDF open, and I'm just going to use the PDF tools that are in here to annotate. All right. So let's get started. And again, we're really looking at our somebody. And what I like to do first is I like to read the first page with fluency, and then I like to go back and answer my questions. Let's get started. The day my son Lori started kindergarten, he renounced corduroy overalls with bibs, and he began wearing blue jeans with a belt. I watched him go off the first morning with the older girl next door, seeing clearly that an era of my life was ended. My sweet-voiced nursery school tot replaced by a long-trousered, swaggering character who forgot to stop at the corner and wave goodbye to me. He came home the same way, the front door slammed open, his cap on the floor, and his voice suddenly becoming raunchous, shouting, "Ain't anybody here?" At lunch, he spoke insolently to his father, spilled his baby sister's milk, and remarked that his teacher said we were not to take the name of the Lord in vain. "How was school today?" I asked, elaborately casual. "All right," he said. "Did you learn anything?" his father asked. Lori regarded his father coldly. "I didn't learn nothing," he said. "Anything," I said. "You didn't learn anything." "The teacher spanked a boy, though," Lori said, addressing his bread and butter. "For being fresh," he added, with his mouth full. "What did he do?" I asked. "Who was it?" Lori thought. "It was Charles," he said. "Oh, he was fresh. The teacher spanked him and made him stand in the corner. Oh, he was awfully fresh." "What did he do?" I asked again. But Lori slid off his chair. He took a cookie and left, while his father was still saying, "See here, young man." Okay, I'm going to stop there, even though it's not the whole end of the page, because I see the next day. And that's a clue that time is changing. And so I'm going to go back and see if I can answer some of my other questions. Now here it says, the day my son Lori started, I. Ooh, so I know that this point of view is what we call first person. And when we have that, we know it's the narrator. Okay. So from that, it says, my son Lori. So the narrator is actually going to be, let's see if I can get some of my tools going here. Oopsie doopsie. The narrator is actually going to be the one telling the story. Oops, I didn't want that. But it seems as if she has a son named Lori. I'm going to put him in blue just so I can kind of remember. Okay, so she's telling the story from her point of view, but it's actually about her son, Lori. Okay, let's see here. And really what they're doing is he's coming home. So verb or action, it says he came home. Okay, so he came home. And where did he come home from? So here it says the day my son Lori started kindergarten. So even though it doesn't say school, I'm inferring that he's coming home from school. If you want to be specific, you can say kindergarten, and that would be perfectly fine as well. Okay, so now we have to see what they want, or if there's any repetitive words or feelings. So here, she's actually kind of asking, kind of like some feelings. How was school today? All right. Did you learn anything? I didn't learn nothing. So he's kind of being not the most respectful. Now, I do see a couple repetitive words here. I didn't learn nothing. The teacher spanked a boy, though, Lori said, for being fresh. Now, if I don't quite know, it says he was fresh. So what I might do is I might actually, here, I'll just move this out of the way or down here a little bit. I might actually go to the internet here, and I might look up child being fresh. What does that mean? Fresh kids. Oh, here we go. Spoiled, ungrateful, someone who talks back. So if I look at a child who was fresh, maybe I could say something like, so Charles is our third character. Now, kindergarten, that generally means about 5. So I was a little bit off on his age. So we have a third character here, Charles. And what we know about Charles, is that Charles, okay, let's be specific here in our actions. He, Lori, came home from school. Okay. So we're going to look at that. Oh, I keep doing the instead of highlighting it. All right, I'm just going to expand this here. But then we also have, we had some, oh, here we go. The repetitive or feeling words. I'm going to take out the word unhappy. Fresh was a repetitive word. But who was fresh? It was Charles. Charles was fresh. And when we looked up that word, it meant like maybe rude, not nice. You can put in whatever other words would probably be stronger words there that you could use. So we're going to keep looking at our story here. So now we're going to see if there's any but words or if there's any opposite feeling words. In addition, we're going to go back and we're going to look at the question that they have here. Why do you think Lori grinned enormously when telling his parents about Charles? So go ahead, put in your own little words or what you think. Why Lori was grinning when he's talking about Charles. What I think sometimes is I think people like gossip. And so maybe he's just all about this juicy gossip that he wants to tell his parents. So let's see if that's right. It'll be interesting to see your answers for why you thought he was doing that. Okay. So I left off with on the next day. The next day, Lori remarked at lunch as soon as he sat down. Well, Charles was bad again today. Oh, look at that. There's a context clue. Rude, nice, bad. Was bad again today, he grinned enormously and said. Today, Charles hit the teacher. Good heavens, I said, mindful of the Lord's name. I suppose he got spanked again? Oh, he sure did, Lori said. Look up, he said to his father. What? His father said, looking up. Look down, Lori said. Look at my thumb. Gee, you're dumb. He began to laugh insanely. Why did Charles hit the teacher? I asked quickly. 'Cause she tried to make him color with red crayons, Lori said. Charles wanted to color with green crayons, so he hit the teacher, and she spanked him and said nobody play with Charles. But, look at that, but everybody did. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. But, or opposite word, feelings. So, but everyone played with Charles, even though the teacher told them not to. Now, this is kind of interesting. Why would a teacher say don't play with anybody, or especially? You can tell that this was written a long time ago because teachers can't hit students anymore. But Mrs. Engel here, I do actually remember in kindergarten, which was in about, just in the early, like the late 1970s, like maybe 1979. I do remember being in kindergarten, and I do remember someone walking around the lunchroom with a paddle. And that was their job, to just walk around the lunchroom with the paddle in case someone was out of line. They could swat their butt. It's called corporal punishment, and it's not allowed in schools anymore, at least in most schools in most states. So you can tell that this story was written a long time ago because it said that everyone could play with Charles even though the teacher told them not to. What she was trying to do was she was trying to discipline Charles. That's what she was trying to do. So who was that someone else that got in? So this almost seems to be a story about Charles, even though it's being told from the mother's point of view. So who is getting into Charles' way? Well, right now it seems to be the teacher. Now, this is actually something interesting. When we talk about the main character in a story, where normally we think of the good guy, right? But here we have a main character who is 5 years old and who is really fresh, who is really rude and bad. And the teacher, who is probably supposed to be the good guy, is actually what we call the protagonist. The protagonist in most stories is the bad guy, but not always. That's kind of like elementary thinking. When you move up to junior high and high school, you think that the protagonist is who's ever getting in the main character's way. So the main character doesn't always have to be a good guy. A lot of times they are. But in this case, you can kind of tell that the main character is fresh, rude, not nice, bad. And the person that's getting in his way is actually the teacher. So we're going to see how Charles tried to fix the problem. What steps did he take? Okay, let's see. The third day, it was Wednesday of the first week, Charles bounced a seesaw onto the head of the little girl and made her bleed. And the teacher made him stay inside all day during recess. So let's see. So in this case, I guess it's not necessarily the main character who's trying to solve the problem. It's the teacher trying to get Charles under control. So the first thing she did was, even if we go back to the first thing, said, no one play with Charles. And the second thing is made him stay inside for recess. All right, let's see what else she does. Charles, let's see. Thursday. Okay, so Wednesday. Thursday, Charles had to stand in the corner. Actually, I might even do that. So let's see. The third day, it was. Okay, so actually, I'm going to name this so that it makes even more sense. Okay, the third day, it was Wednesday. So I'm going to say. Okay, so we're going to say number 1. Actually, this will probably be number 2. And then on the third day, it was Wednesday. Okay, and then we are actually getting into, oh, that's right, this kind of goes down a ways, so that's going to be kind of silly. Actually, let's do this so that we're not getting too weird, with spaces and stuff. Actually, the best way to do that is say insert break, page break, then it won't go all weird on us. There we go. Okay, and then we have, let's see what else it said. On the fourth day, Thursday, it said that Charles had to stand in the corner for story time. Okay, and on Friday, he just keeps getting in trouble, doesn't he? And on Friday, he was deprived of blackboard privileges because he threw chalk. So what that means is he can't use the blackboard. Now, we might not know what that is. Just think of smartboard in your head, and you can kind of get the idea. On Saturday, I remarked to my husband, "Do you think kindergarten is too unsettling for Lori? All of this toughness and bad grammar. And this Charles boy sounds like such a bad influence." "Ah, he'll be all right," my husband said reassuringly. "Bound to be people like Charles in the world. Might as well meet them now as later." On Monday, Lori came home late, full of news. "Charles," he shouted as he came up the hill. I was waiting anxiously on the front steps. "Charles," Lori yelled all the way up the hill. Charles was bad again. "Come right in," I said, as soon as he came close enough. "Lunch is waiting." Do you know what Charles did? Let's see, what was this? Monday now? Here we go. So this is day 6. Monday. Let's see. Do you know what Charles did? He demanded, following me through the door. Charles yelled so in school that they sent a boy in from first grade to tell the teacher she had to make Charles keep quiet. And so Charles had to stay after school. Charles had to stay after school. And so all the children stayed to watch him. What did he do? I asked. "Oh, he just sat there," Lori said, climbing into his chair at the end of the table. "Hi, Pop, you old dust mop." Charles had to stay after school today, I told my husband. Everyone stayed with him. "What does this Charles look like?" my husband asked Lori. "What is his other name?" He's bigger than me," Lori said, "and he doesn't have any rubbers, and he doesn't ever wear a jacket." Monday night was the first parent-teacher meeting. The only fact that the baby had a cold kept me from going. Oh, I wanted passionately to meet Charles's mother. On Tuesday, Lori remarked suddenly, "Our teacher had a friend come to see her in the school today." Charles's mother? My husband and I asked simultaneously. Nah, Lori said scornfully. It was a man who came and made us do exercises. We had to touch our toes. Look. He climbed down from his chair and squatted and touched his toes. Like this, he said. He got solemnly back into his chair and said, picking up his fork, "Charles didn't even do the exercises." That's fine, I said heartily. Didn't Charles want to do the exercises? Nah, Lori said. Charles was so fresh, so again, that word fresh comes up again, to the teacher's friend that he wasn't let to do exercises. And so number 7 was Tuesday. He couldn't participate or do the exercises. Fresh again, I said. He kicked the teacher's friend, Lori said. The teacher's friend told Charles to touch his toes like I just did, and Charles kicked him. What are they going to do about Charles, do you suppose? Lori's father asked him. Lori shrugged elaborately. Throw him out of school, I guess, he said. Wednesday and Thursday were routine. Child yelled during story hour and hit a boy in the stomach and made him cry. On Friday, Charles stayed after school again, and so did all the other children. That's been repeated twice. So did all the other children. Now, I don't know about you, but even in my day, it was very rare, if at all the students had to stay after school. So, Friday the following week, Charles stayed after again. So I'm starting to get a little suspicious here because, he's calling his dad like an old dust mop. He has to stay after school with Charles. Something smells a little fishy to me at this point. With the 3rd week of kindergarten, Charles was an institution in our family. The baby was being a Charles when she cried all afternoon. Lori did a Charles when he filled the wagon full of mud and pulled it through the kitchen. Even my husband, when he caught his elbow on the telephone cord and pulled the telephone and a bowl of flowers off the table, said, after the first minute, "Looks like a Charles." During the 3rd and 4th week, it looked like a reformation in Charles. Lori reportedly, grimly at lunch on Thursday of the 3rd week, "Charles was so good today." Now this is interesting. Okay. So here it said the 3rd and 4th week, Charles was good. So that's what we call a shift in tone. That the teacher gave him an apple. Okay. What? I said, and my husband added wearily, "You mean Charles?" "Charles," Lori said. He gave the crayons around and he picked up the books afterward, and the teacher said that he was her helper. Okay, so gave him an apple and said he was her helper. What happened? I said incredulously. He was her helper. That was all. Let's see. We're still trying to see what's happening in the end of this story. Lori shrugged. Can this be true about Charles? I asked my husband that night. Can something like this happen? See, what did this say? Are you surprised? Well, I was kind of surprised because this is kind of interesting. I'm actually going to highlight this word good because that kind of lets me know that there was a shift or there was a change that went on with Charles. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, let's keep reading. And then what does this say? What does Lori's father mean when he says that Charles is plotting? What do you think will happen? Okay, so let's see. Can this be true about Charles? I asked my husband that night. Can something like this happen? Wait and see, my father said cynically. Now I know cynic, if you're being kind of like cynical, it's not a good word. When you got a Charles to deal with, this may mean he's only plotting. Now, I don't know about you if you've ever heard something called the calm before the storm. Sometimes people just act like they're being nice when really they want to do something tricky. He seemed to be wrong. For over a week, Charles was the teacher's helper. Each day he handed things out and picked things up, and no one had to stay after school. The PTA meeting is next week again, I told my husband one evening. I'm going to find Charles' mother there. Ask her what happened to Charles, my husband said. I'd like to know. Well, I'd like to know myself, I said. On Friday of that week, things were back to normal. You know what Charles did today? Oh, this is kind of interesting. So I'm going to make another note. Number 10. So what is this? Like week 5 or something? Well, he was good for a week. So the 3rd and 4th week, he was good. So this was the 5th week. Oh, we're switching back again. Lori demanded at lunch in a voice slightly awe. He told a girl to say a word, and she said it. And the teacher washed her mouth out with soap, and Charles laughed. What word? His father asked unwisely. And Lori said, I'll have to whisper it to you. It is so bad. He got down off his chair, went around to his father. His father bent his head down, and Lori whispered joyfully. His father's eyes widened. Did Charles tell the little girl to say that? He asked respectfully. She said it twice, Lori said. Charles told her to say it twice. What happened to Charles? My husband asked. Nothing. So he told a girl to say a bad word. She got in trouble, but he did not. Nothing. He was passing out the crayons. Monday morning, Charles abandoned the little girl and said the evil word to himself 3 or 4 times. But he did not at the time. Later, he had his mouth washed out with soap. Actually, my cousins used to get that happen to them. He also threw chalk. My husband came to the door with me that evening as I set out for the PTA meeting, inviting her over for a cup of tea after the meeting. He said, I want to get a good look at her. Well, if only she's there, I said prayerfully. Oh, whoa. Sorry. I didn't mean to click on that. Let's see. Here we go. She'll be there, my husband said. I don't see how they could hold a PTA meeting without Charles' mother. At the meeting, I sat restlessly, scanning each comfortable, matronly face, trying to determine which one hid the secret of Charles. None of them, to me, looked haggard enough. No one stood up in the meeting and apologized for the way her son had been acting. No one mentioned Charles. After the meeting, I identified and sought out Lori's kindergarten teacher. She had a plate of a cup of tea and a piece of chocolate cake. I had a plate with a cup of tea and a piece of marshmallow cake. We maneuvered up to one another cautiously and smiled. "I've been so anxious to meet you," I said. "I'm Lori's mother." "We're all so interested in Lori," she said. "Well, he certainly likes kindergarten," I said. "He talks about it all the time." "Well, we had a little trouble adjusting the first week or so," she said primly. "But now he's a fine little helper. With occasional lapses, of course." "Lori usually adjusts very quickly," I said. I suppose this time it's Charles' influence?" "Charles." "Yeah," I said, laughing. "You must have your hands full with that kindergarten with Charles." "Charles?" she said. "We don't have any Charles in kindergarten." What happened in the end? Were they able to solve their problem or not? There was no Charles. What does that mean? I want you to think about that. There is a little clue in what she said. It said, let's see. But now he's a fine little helper. Did we not see that word in the different steps that people took to try to solve the problem? And so now I want you to make your own conclusion as to who you think Charles is. And then the second one is, what do you think happens when Lori's mom goes home? All right, I'm going to let you get to it.